former business, and they don't call shots in my former business. And when what's his name? Yeah, whatever. The guy who produces that show banned me from his forum for a little while. You guys are making a show based on your imagination. I've lived my life based on living my life. Okay. And in that, I've rubbed shoulders with the biker crowd from time to time. And there's a lot of guys, when somebody decides to adopt a culture and a subculture, there's a lot that goes with it. In my old business, the business was, we're in that because of what we believe in. And generally speaking, now there's a new generation of people in that business. That's a different story. But some are for real, some are not. It is what it is. And when you're dealing with a biker crowd, egos run high. Okay, these middle-aged white guys, but if they want to have tough guy and bravado and status and all that stuff, they're going to. There's a lot of blame going on about this thing in Waco, Texas, about, why didn't the restaurant have more security? Well, they had cops on the door all over the place. I'm sure they had bouncers. I worked as a bouncer at another club where we had biker stuff going on. And we had Hells Angels roll in there. And generally speaking, because they were a high-profile 1% club, and it was in California, it was Hells Angels turf. Okay, and people kind of understood. They showed up first. They spent the most money. It was their turf. That doesn't mean your group of friends, Vietnam veteran bikers, were not welcome. It just meant that that's the dominant club. They're going to call some shots, but it doesn't mean that they own the property. They weren't buying the property. And one of the things I learned early on, because I thought, oh wow, we're going to be dealing with these guys. What do we do? And I was kind of the middling guy in the security staff, and I was tense around them. I was tense around these guys. You're dealing with some people that threaten that they'll threaten your life in day-to-day conversation, and they mean it. Okay, they're not full of shit people. But I learned a few things from my dad, and he told me about how he knew some of them in Cleveland, and they're cool if you're cool, and this type of thing, and that relatively straightforward people once you get past the costume. And so I studied a little bit about this code that they had. It was another occasion I was doing security for another individual who happened to be doing some stuff in the same building that Sonny Barger was doing a book signing. So I got to meet some of the people in Sonny Barger's entourage. And, people were lined up around the block to meet Sonny Barger. Now, it was one of the things that I felt I could bring to the patriot movement. If we could somehow take that public relations that the bikers do, bring that into the survivalist movement and what was at that point the fledgling militia movement. To bring that in somehow, to somehow grasp that cultural identity. That's one of the things that I've kind of applauded James Yeager for, some of the guys over at Max Tactical and Southern Prepper One, and some of that stuff is this sort of thing. But one of the things we tend not to have in the patriot movement that the agent provocateurs have tried to promote is gunfights between groups or rival groups that claim to all believe in the same thing, but obviously they're going to have different groups, different chains of command. And I'm going to wait for the background noise to change, and then we're going to do. People have been arrested, several of them on pretty serious capital offenses. The government's going full tilt prosecutions. This is probably the biggest bloodbath of gang warfare since the St. Valentine's. I think it's one of the biggest ones in history. Over 100 weapons have been dropped and strewn around the place. There was active gunfights with law enforcement. Law enforcement was there already. There was a lot of bravado, a lot of tension. These guys play by big boys rules, and they don't back down. It's part of the culture they're in. Some people have commented in a forum I participate in, why is the club at fault for hosting this thing? listen, if you're pulling up to a restaurant and it's wall-to-wall Harleys and you see guys with club colors and you're not a part of that scene, keep driving. Okay, if you don't want to be a part of that scene, don't walk into that club. Okay, that club's going to make plenty of money off of those guys. They tip well. They play hard. They party hard. They tip well. If you don't want to be in that scene, you're going to have to find someplace else to take the wife and kids for dinner, and that's the way it is. Okay, that's going to be the clientele for that place that night. I worked at a resort. We did concerts, Steppenwolf and Bad Company and biker popular concerts. And if it's not Disneyland. Okay, there's big boys rules when you go in there, and everybody knows it. Now, some clubs, ours was pretty strict about the weapons situation. I can tell you that patch wearing, colors wearing, senior shot callers and their entourage, their immediate entourage, for usually it was the Hells Angels there. We didn't shake them down. Okay, we're not going to frisk them. We're not going to shake them down. They understand big boys rules. We understand big boys rules. If somebody goes up and they're not out screwing with people, they don't call the shots at that place. Our staff calls the shots there, but they understand that. On the other hand, if somebody's going to go and do a hit on them, and then word gets out that we disarmed them before going in, and that helped facilitate the hit, then we're at fault. Okay, we're going to be held responsible for facilitating that hit. So no, we don't shake those guys down. Now, up here in Oregon, I don't know. I've never been to biker stuff up here in Oregon. That was in California. How they roll here in Oregon, if I were to ever get shook down walking into a club, I'll never go back. Okay. One way to, you don't need 86 me. You tell me you're going to frisk me going into a club, thanks, asshole, we're not coming back. Because there's two ways that rolls. One, you're trying to facilitate me getting attacked. Or two, you're not running a club, you're running some kind of bullshit fishing for cases for the feds or the fuzz or whatever, and you're dehumanizing me in front of people I might need to impress or do business with, or a chick I'm trying to be, put me against a wall and frisk me while I'm trying to impress some chick. I'm going to put my hand on your face, man. That's how this works, and for one thing, that's assault. If I walk into a club and somebody start putting their hands up on me, that's assault. Okay, I don't take shit off people like that. These guys, they understand that. Everybody understood that. So everybody knows how the big boys rules works. Now, if you're not involved in that biker scene, and I'm not, I just bought this T-shirt at Walmart. Okay. But if you're not involved in that scene and you're not going to take a hike on a wild side and go to certain places on Saturday night, then don't go there. Real simple. Okay, because that's how it works. It's called adult fun, adult entertainment. People making big adult choices. And one of the things we would know is some clubs more than others are relatively ethical about the way they'll contain their conflicts. They can be at war with each other, and it doesn't mean a lot of bystanders get hurt. They actually have a chain of command that takes a real responsibility for that stuff. Now, the government goes apeshit over that, but what we haven't really seen as much, but I think there was Outlaws. There's a club that's called the Outlaws. They had an issue with the BATF. I think burned somebody's house, burning a house of one of the agents at some point. It's a little bit of a different issue if they have a direct conflict with, let's say, a particular government agency, and they tend to narrow it down. Because of somebody broke the rules. Now, I'm not saying somebody broke laws or didn't break laws, but there's rules, okay, and everybody understands how. Usually, if somebody gets into those scenes, they kind of understand how those rules work. Do people break those rules? Yes, they do. 9 times out of 10, the government people feel that they're exempt from the rules. It's institutionalized sociopathy, is what it really boils down to. When we look at the clubs that are most likely to do something, believe it or not, it's usually not the 1%ers. One percenters actually go through a process before they decide somebody needs to get hurt. A lot of times it's going to be your weekend bikers that are a tough guy who doesn't want to take shit off anybody, that's going to jump, that's going to do something. It's going to be the guy who doesn't have a criminal record, therefore was eligible for a carry permit, who's going to be armed at that time. Or the guy who maybe he doesn't have a carry permit, but he is also not a prohibited person. He's probably going to be carrying a firearm. The one percenter who is, 2 steps off parole or something like that, a lot of times he's just, a knife or brass knuckle or something he can toss, or his girlfriend, or somebody's going to have an extra gun they could hand off to him. A lot of times he's not carrying a firearm. Most of the time that tough guy felon is not carrying a firearm. At least not in the biker world, not in the middle-aged white guy world. And so when something like this goes down, it's hard to say who's to blame. We don't know. We don't know who jumped first. But the biker crowd is usually pretty good at keeping their wars, keeping their conflicts within their own people, and keeping bystanders out of it. And for that reason, I don't think we in the survivalist culture, survivalist side, any of that, we shouldn't be taking sides. If you're going to be criticizing them and demanding that they should have gone through airport level security before going to one of their rallies or the clubs, you're not a libertarian. Okay, you're not a Second Amendment supporter. Stop pretending. That's just a rhino or a neocon who happens to have went and spent $20 on an NRA membership and a couple thousand at a gun shop, and they just see the NRA thing as a little bit of insurance to maybe stay out of jail or stay on a good side of the cops, who are claiming to be with the NRA to get reelected as sheriff or something like that, but in reality they're just into the power. These guys, up to the point they were drawing down and shooting at each other, we're not going to, I can't judge that. Okay, we can't judge them for exercising the right of association, their right to keep and bear arms, their right to gather publicly, their right to have tough guy values. That's all that. Okay, and until we get much more detailed reports out of what happened and why, patriot movement, militia movement shouldn't be making statements. As far as concealed carriers, people going to places, don't take, if you're going to take your wife and little kids to an event where hard dudes roll and hard dudes roll heavy, okay, you knew you were taking your chances with that. I mean, come on. That means you want to play by little boys' rules, and that's you. Okay. As far as this conflict between those guys go, will things heat up? Yeah, could be a problem. There's a lot of developments we could discuss. Anybody got questions, you can put them in a comment below, and we'll carry it further. But I would say I would urge caution in taking sides in this thing. Try to gain intelligence and analysis. Weigh the intelligence information much more heavily than you would weigh the analysis, because I think a lot of the analysis on this type of stuff can be flawed, especially when there's insufficient information to work with on. Insufficient information to really come to all the conclusions that maybe we would need to come to as far as guilt or innocence or fault in these types of things, or what should be done in response to them or to avoid them.